The playbook is unmistakable. Anyone who has watched Iraq's monetary history knows the sequence: a period of quiet preparation, a tightening of financial controls, public denials from officials, and then a sudden adjustment. We have seen it before, but this time, something fundamental is different, and if you do not understand what changed, you will misinterpret everything that happens next. Let me take you through the historical playbook. In December 2020, Iraq devalued the dinar by approximately 18.5%, moving from 1,180 dinars per dollar to 1,450. In February 2023, they did it again, strengthening the currency by 11.5% back to 1,320, where it remains today. Before each of these adjustments, the same patterns emerged: official denials that any change was coming, a buildup of pressure in the parallel market, and a sudden move when the conditions were right. The playbook is running again. On February 10, 2026, Central Bank Governor Alaq sat down with Ruda and delivered the most definitive denial we have ever heard. He stated flatly that the central bank is not studying the topic of changing the exchange rate. He called market speculation great confusion and misplaced. He dismissed any link between the budget deficit and currency adjustment as an incorrect link. This is straight from the playbook. Deny till the moment of action. Alaq provided the foundational data that makes the current moment unique. He revealed that Iraq's foreign reserves now exceed $100 billion, including more than 76 tons of gold. The money supply stands at approximately 100 trillion dinars. But here is the number that makes this time different: more than 80% of that money supply exists outside the banking system. 80%. Trillions of dinars circulating in the shadow economy. In previous adjustments, this shadow economy was a problem to be managed. This time, it is a target to be captured. Alaq explained the mechanism with unusual clarity. If money owners feel reassured about the existence of a fair and transparent tax system, they will bring their money and deposit it in banks. Reassurance. That is what this playbook is building, and the tools being deployed are unlike anything Iraq has used before. On January 1, 2026, Iraq launched a mandatory advanced customs declaration system for all goods and commodities. The ASYCUDA electronic platform, developed by the United Nations, now requires traders to declare goods before completing financial transfers. When goods arrive at the border, customs officials verify the pre-declared information. This is not a paper system that can be bribed. This is a digital system that tracks everything. Government spokesman Bassem Al-Wadi stated that ASYCUDA is not a local innovation, but rather an international obligation within Iraq's commitments to combat currency smuggling and money laundering. One of its key goals is ensuring fair competition in trade. This is the enforcement mechanism that previous playbooks lacked. Before, the parallel market could thrive because dollars flowed through unmonitored channels. Now, the ASYCUDA system connects every import transaction to the banking system. No customs clearance, no dollars. On February 11, the Director General of the Iraqi General Customs Authority, Thamer Qasim, announced that the Kurdistan region has begun responding to the unification of customs tariffs with federal border crossings. Advanced understandings are in place to implement the ASYCUDA system across all points of entry. For years, one of the largest leaks in Iraq's financial system was the differential between federal and Kurdistan region customs duties. Traders would import goods through the region, pay lower tariffs, and then smuggle those goods into federal Iraq. That leak is now being sealed. This time is different because the enforcement covers the entire country. On February 5, Governor Alaq met with U.S. Chargé d'Affaires Joshua Harris in Baghdad. They discussed dollar sales, banking reforms, and ongoing cooperation. Harris praised the significant reform initiatives undertaken by the Central Bank of Iraq and affirmed the United States' full readiness to continue supporting the efforts of the Central Bank of Iraq, enabling it to achieve its goals in enhancing financial and monetary stability. This is not the adversarial relationship of previous eras. This is coordinated cooperation. Since November, Iraqi banks have had to comply with SWIFT international transfer system criteria to access their foreign reserves held at the U.S. Federal Reserve. Muzaffar Saleh, a financial advisor to Prime Minister Sudani, explained that Iraqi banks must now register their dollar transfers on an online platform that reviews every request. The Federal Reserve examines these requests, and if there are any suspicions about the final destination, it stops the transfer. Since this mechanism was adopted, the U.S. Federal Reserve has blocked about 80% of transfer requests due to doubts over where the money was actually going. Economist Ahmed Tabakali put it plainly, contrary to current misconceptions, rumors, and misinformation, there is no evidence of U.S. pressure on Iraq. The new regulations require high levels of disclosure and transparency. This came as a shock for many of our banks, who were not used to this. The shock is the point. The playbook this time includes enforcement that previous versions lacked. On February 9th, in Erbil, Governor Alaq stood beside Prime Minister Masar Barzani and launched ePsûle, a unified electronic payment platform for the Kurdistan region. Alaq stated, "Everyone now understands that handling transactions with cash alongside complex economic demands is no longer sustainable. Establishing a secure and transparent electronic financial system is essential to restoring citizens' confidence in the banking sector." ePsûle allows citizens to pay government bills instantly through mobile applications, digital wallets, and partner banks. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no additional fees. For decades, government payments meant physical cash, long queues, and opaque transactions. Now they mean transparency, efficiency, and records. The digital infrastructure that previous playbooks lacked is now operational. On February 16th, the central bank issued a directive that further tightens control. They announced that applicable laws do not recognize any discrimination between different editions of the U.S. dollar. Banks must stop treating old bills as less valuable than new ones. This matters because parallel market operators have long used the excuse that they need to charge more for old dollar bills to justify their higher rates. That excuse is now illegal. The central bank stated this is in a way that contributes to ensuring the safety of monetary transactions and market stability. Every loophole that sustained the parallel market in previous eras is being systematically closed. Now, let me give you the market reality. The official central bank rate stands at 1,320 dinars to the dollar, unchanged since February 2023. The parallel market trades around 1,530 to 1,550 dinars per dollar. On February 21st, the dollar stabilized in Baghdad and Erbil, trading at approximately 150 to 2,700 dinars per $100 in the main exchanges. Manar al-Obeidi, head of the Iraq Future Foundation, attributed the recent rise in the parallel market to increased demand from small traders importing non-food goods and services who lack access to official financial transfer channels. This is the friction of transition. These are the traders who have not yet adapted to the new system. But here is what makes this time different. The government is not backing down. Despite widespread trader protests in February, MP Diashagadi al-Zaidi dismissed the protests as an attempt to muddy the waters and stated the government would not reverse its implementation of the ASYCUDA system. The Federal Supreme Court dismissed a legal challenge against the customs tariff decision, citing the absence of legitimate interest. The political will that was absent in previous playbooks is now present. Alaq was explicit about the condition for change. He said an exchange rate adjustment would only be considered if Iraq faced an inability to meet demand for foreign currency due to weak reserves. And he explicitly stated that this is not the case at the present time. Not the case because the reserves are strong. Not the case because the ASYCUDA system is bringing the shadow economy under control. Not the case because the digital infrastructure is being built. Not the case because the international cooperation is secured. Not the case because the political will is holding. The playbook is the same, but the context is completely different. Previous adjustments were reactive. The 2020 devaluation was forced by a fiscal crisis. The 2023 adjustment was a recalibration after that crisis. Both were responses to conditions that already existed. This time, Iraq is building the conditions for a proactive adjustment. The customs system, the digital payments, the banking compliance, the reserves accumulation, all of it is preparation for a moment when the exchange rate can be changed from a position of strength, not weakness. Alaq explained the philosophical shift if we link the topic of changing the exchange rate to the budget deficit. It means we have set a shaky foundation for the future of the national currency in Iraq. Stability is a fundamental condition for achieving economic and investment movement. This time, the foundation is being built to last. The traders protesting in Baghdad are not evidence that the reforms have failed. They are evidence that the reforms are working. The 80% of currency outside banks is not evidence that the economy is weak. It is evidence of the fuel that will power what comes next. The parallel market rate is not evidence of a collapsing currency. It is the last gasp of a system that is being systematically dismantled. The playbook is running, but this time is different. The infrastructure is being built. The enforcement is real. The political will is holding. The reserves are strong. When the conditions are right, when 80% begins to flow into the formal system, when the customs system covers every border, when the digital platforms are ubiquitous, when the banks are fully compliant, then the rate will change, not from weakness, but from strength. The playbook is the same. The outcome will not be